In the course of our last few lessons, we learned how the Bolsheviks came to power over Russia following the Russian Revolution of October 1917. We learned how the Bolsheviks used power and authority and a strict kind of coercion in order to retain its power. We also learned about how repression of various kinds was happening during the rule of the Bolsheviks. And many non-Bolshevik groups were also posing challenge to the Bolshevik rule in Russia. Subsequently, we also learnt about the formation of the USSR, which was a socialist state. Now, having learnt about the USSR, in this lesson we will focus on the influence that the USSR had on world politics. Though the Bolsheviks' acquisition of power and retention of power in the USSR did not meet with approval from other European socialist parties, the Bolsheviks nevertheless opened up new avenues, new ways of thinking. Because many European socialist parties were not in great favor of how the Bolsheviks were retaining power by the use of coercion. But nevertheless, the Bolsheviks and this idea of socialism now introduced people to a new way of thinking. And these socialist ideals also inspired very many countries throughout the world. In fact, socialism still continues to be the bedrock of many modern independent nations. Now, those people whose ideas aligned with the communist philosophy were inspired by the formation of the Russian Communist Party Bolshevik under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin. And so subsequently, many communist parties were founded in different countries throughout the world. Let me give you an example. The Communist Party of Great Britain was founded in the year 1920, and likewise many communist parties now came up in different countries throughout the world. Even the colonized populations in different places were also inspired by the communist ideals, by the socialist ideals, because communism now encouraged these people in their struggle against the colonizers. Now, throughout the 17th, 18th centuries, the European powers had established their colonies in different parts of the world, and the European colonizers used to exploit and torture these colonized populations. And when these colonized populations were introduced to the socialist ideals, they thought that they can also follow the path of the Bolsheviks in their struggle to attain independence and freedom from the colonizers. Now, many non-Russians from outside the USSR also participated in the Comintern or Communist International that was founded in 1919. Now, this was an organization, a communist organization to be specific, that was founded by the USSR in 1919, and many non-Russians also participated in this. At the same time, non-Russians from outside the USSR also participated in the Congress of the Peoples of the East that was held in September 1920. So these organizations, associations as well as meetings helped the spread of communist ideals, the spread of socialist ideals outside the USSR. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. When was the Comintern formed? Was it formed in 1920, 1918 or in 1919 or in 1921? Well, the correct answer is 1919. The Comintern was formed in the year 1919. Now, many communist cadres also received education in the USSR's Communist University of the Workers of the East. So, can you understand how organizations, how many associations, how even universities were also established so as to spread communism throughout the world. Because communism and socialist ideas were at their nascent stage when they entered Russia. And it is from the USSR that these ideas spread throughout the world. Over the years, these ideas became so popular that USSR became a major global power in the latter half of the 19th century. And over the years, these communist ideas and the socialist ideals helped USSR to strengthen its power in the global politics in the latter half of the 20th century. I'm sure many of you must have read the preamble to the Constitution of India. It begins something like this. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens, and on goes the preamble. Now, I'm sure you saw that this word socialist is mentioned in the preamble to the Constitution of India. Well, this is because many leaders of the Indian national movement like Ram Manohar Lohia, Jawaharlal Nehru were inspired by the socialist ideas of the USSR. And they were so greatly inspired by these socialist ideals that this also reflected in the formation of the independent nation called India. So this is how socialist ideas kept on spreading throughout the world, and it is reflective from the preamble to the Constitution of India. By a socialist state, we mean that India strives to remove all discriminations from the society based on class, caste, gender. All the people will be treated with equality. They will have equal access to various opportunities as well as privileges. They will also be treated equally before the law. This will be a democratic nation. So these were the socialist ideals that got ingrained in the very fabric of the newly independent nation in India, because the leaders of Indian national movement were inspired by the socialist ideals of the Soviet Union as well as the Russian Revolution of 1917. Socialist ideas of abolition of private property helped the USSR achieve massive and rapid industrialization. In fact, a country that was a nobody in global politics emerged as a great power in international politics in the latter half of the 20th century. But at the same time, politicians and people from within the USSR by the 1950s realized that the USSR was quite far from achieving the real ideals of socialism. Because in USSR, socialism was achieved at the cost of a lot of things. Coercion was used, surveillance was used so as to bring people under this umbrella of socialism. And over the years, USSR and the USA came into conflict with each other. Constant conflict with the US and this political philosophy of capitalism, as well as for several domestic reasons, USSR disintegrated in the year 1991. And as this shows you here, USSR passed into history. Though the USSR does not exist today, many countries in different parts of the world have their own policies founded on the socialist ideals that were propounded by the Soviet Union. With this, we come to an end of our discussion on socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. In this series of lessons, we learnt a whole lot of things. We learnt what this policy, we learnt what this philosophy of socialism is all about. how socialism strives to achieve equality in society, how it strives to abolish discriminations from the society, how it is against private ownership of property. We were also introduced to the concept of capitalism in due course of our lessons, and we learned that in the years before and after the First World War, most of the European countries were enmeshed in political turmoil. Now, the French Revolution that happened in the 18th century had kindled the spirit of nationalism in the minds of people. And when people were stuck in political crisis, economic crisis, before and after the First World War, these people wanted to achieve independence. These people wanted to outdo the existent social order. In Russia, to be specific, we learned that the workers were exploited by the wealthy factory owners. The peasants were also exploited and tortured by the wealthy landowners. And centuries of resentment and protests brewing up in the minds of these people resulted in the Russian revolutions. First, we learnt about the February Revolution of 1905, where the workers had gone to send a petition to Tsar Nicholas II to make their lives better. And after this revolution of 1905, Tsar Nicholas II's rule was destabilized to a great extent. He had to allow the formation of the Duma, which was the Russian parliament. But after years came the First World War. The First World War posed an even greater challenge to Imperial Russia. Imperial Russia was almost brought down to its knees. Its industries were failing, its economy was faltering, and at this point of time, Tsar Nicholas II also realized that he could not hold power for long. So now happened the Russian Revolution of 1917. So now the stage was founded for the Russian Revolution of 1917. Tsar Nicholas II had abdicated the throne, and a new government came into place, but this new government was also dominated by the bourgeoisie, by the wealthy and propertied men. Now the workers, the communists, were against this, and Vladimir Lenin, as all his ideals, all his practices of communism were all for the proletariats, led the Russian Revolution of 1917. Following the Russian Revolution of 1917, the Bolsheviks came to power over Russia. We also learned how the Bolsheviks ruled Russia. And it was not very peaceful, because many non-Bolshevik factions were threatening to destabilize the rule of the Bolsheviks. And the Bolsheviks were also very strict with their measures and how they dealt with the masses as well as any kind of dissident opinions. Subsequently, we also learnt about the formation of the USSR. And then we talked about another Soviet leader that Stalin was. After the death of Lenin, Stalin now became the leader of the USSR. And Stalin ruled with an iron hand, so to speak. His policies were very drastic. He thought of collectivizing the farms in order to achieve great profit from boosted agricultural production. Now, Stalin's dreams ended up in failure, and when people began criticizing his government, he started a new political campaign which was known as the Great Purge. And it was during Great Purge that Stalin hoped to remove all kinds of opinions as well as opponents from his state. So we have talked about the Imperial Russia, as well as the USSR at great length. And we also traced the trajectory so as to understand how the Imperial Russia over the years gave way to Russia and then to the new Soviet Union. And subsequently, we learned that though the Soviet Union disintegrated in the year 1991, Its socialist ideals spread throughout the world and inspired many countries in different parts of the world in their own struggles, in their own freedom movements. So, this now helps us conclude our discussion on socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.